Power is not given, it is taken.
Before he became a legend, he was just a man. With the power of a consul and the ambition of a conqueror, Caesar left Rome for Gaul. He didn't just want to govern. He wanted to expand the borders of the civilized world. He took with him 4 veteran legions and a hunger for glory that would change Europe forever. But the Germanic tribes across the border were constantly raiding Gaul.
Where Rome goes, the bridge follows.
To terrorize the Germanic tribes, Caesar did the impossible. In just 10 days, his engineers built a massive bridge across the Rhine, a feat of engineering that stunned the ancient world. He marched across, showed his strength, and then destroyed the bridge behind him, proving that no river could stop Rome. But Gaul would not fall easily. A charismatic chieftain named Vercingetorix united the divided Gallic tribes in a massive rebellion. Outnumbered, Caesar tracked the rebel army to the hilltop fortress of Alesia. In 52 BC, the war reached its climax at Alesia. Caesar trapped the great Gallic leader Vercingetorix inside the city. He built a 15-mile-long wall around the entire city, cutting off all supplies. But then, the unthinkable happened.
Hold the line! Don't look back! Hold the line! Don't look back!
A massive Gallic relief army arrived to rescue the city. Caesar was now trapped between 2 armies. His solution? He built a second wall facing outwards. He was now besieging a city while being besieged himself. It was a tactical gamble that should have been impossible. Against all odds, Caesar won. Vercingetorix surrendered, and with him, all of Gaul fell. Caesar had conquered hundreds of tribes, enslaved 1 million people, and added a massive new territory to Rome. He was no longer just a politician. He was a living legend.
Gallia est omnis divisa in partes tres, quarum unam incolunt Belgae, aliam Aquitani,
But Caesar didn't just fight, he wrote. He sent regular reports back to Rome, describing his victories in thrilling detail. He was his own PR agent, ensuring that every citizen in Rome knew his name and feared his power. The alliance that held Rome together was falling apart. Crassus, the money man, died in a disastrous war in the east. Julia, Caesar's daughter and Pompey's wife, died in childbirth. The personal and political bonds were gone. Pompey was no longer Caesar's ally, he was his rival.
Lay down your command, Caesar, or be declared an enemy of Rome!
Fearful of Caesar's growing glory, the Senate made their move. They ordered him to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen to stand trial. It was a trap. If he obeyed, his career and likely his life was over. Caesar reached the Rubicon, a small river that marked the boundary between his province and Italy. Crossing it with an army was an act of high treason. For hours he hesitated. To turn back was obscurity. To move forward was world war.
Allez, acta est! The die is cast! Roma! Caesar!
Then he made his choice. The die is cast, he famously said, and plunged his horse into the water. By crossing that river, Caesar declared war on the Roman Republic. There was no turning back now.
The city burns, we must flee! No, not like this! The legions! Run! The soldiers are coming! God saves they're here!
When news reached Rome that Caesar was coming, panic erupted. The Senate had expected a trial. They got an invasion. Pompey and the aristocrats fled the city, leaving Rome open for its new master. The civil war had begun. For months, Caesar chased Pompey across the Mediterranean. Finally, in the plains of Pharsalus, Greece, the two greatest generals of Rome faced each other. Pompey had the numbers, the supplies, and the backing of the Senate. Caesar had only his battle-hardened veterans and his back against the wall.
Tomorrow, we feast on Caesar's head! Yes, to victory!
Pompey's allies were so certain of victory that they were already arguing over who would take Caesar's house and titles. They outnumbered Caesar's infantry 2-1, and their cavalry was 7 times larger. On paper, Caesar was a dead man.
Don't throw your spears. Aim for their faces.
Caesar knew Pompey would use his massive cavalry to flank him. So, he created a secret 4th line of his best men. He gave them a strange order. Don't throw your spears at the horses, but thrust them directly at the faces of the wealthy young aristocrats riding them. He knew they feared disfigurement more than death.
Hold the line! For Rome! No, stay back! Fight on! Do not yield! For Caesar charge!
The plan worked perfectly. Pompey's elite cavalry panicked and fled the field. Caesar then ordered his entire line to charge. The Senate's army collapsed. In a few hours, the man who owned the world, Pompey the Great, was a broken fugitive running for his life. Pompey fled to the only place he thought was safe, Egypt. He had been a patron to the Egyptian royal family, and he expected a king's welcome. But the world had changed. In Egypt, a young boy king and his advisors were watching, and they were terrified of Caesar. Caesar arrived in Alexandria just days after Pompey. He came to claim his rival and his debts. But Egypt was in the middle of its own bloody civil war between a young queen named Cleopatra and her brother. Caesar was about to walk into a trap and the arms of the most famous woman in history.
He was a consul of Rome, my son-in-law.
When Caesar landed in Alexandria, he expected a final showdown with his rival. Instead, he was met with a cowardly act of betrayal. The advisors of the boy King Ptolemy had murdered Pompey to win Caesar's favor, presenting him only with Pompey's signet ring. They expected a smile. They got a war. Caesar wept for his fallen enemy and refused to leave Egypt until justice was served.
I must reach him. no matter the risk.
But the palace was a cage, controlled by her brother's men. Cleopatra, the rightful queen, was in exile. She knew that if she could reach Caesar, she could win her throne back. But how do you sneak into a palace guarded by an army that wants you dead? She devised a plan as daring as it was legendary. She had herself rolled into a large linen sack and carried by a trusted servant directly into Caesar's private quarters. It was a gamble that would either end in her execution or her victory. As the sack unrolled, the 21-year-old queen emerged before the 52-year-old Roman conqueror. Caesar, a man who had seen everything, was speechless. In that single moment, the fate of Egypt and the Roman Republic became one. It wasn't just beauty that captured Caesar. It was her vision of power. Cleopatra wasn't just a queen. She was a brilliant strategist who spoke many languages and understood the world's economy. She showed him that with Egypt's wealth and Rome's iron, they could rule the entire world together.
Arrows to the palace! Get behind me, Cleopatra!
Caesar, the ships! The
But their
lighthouse!
union sparked a war. Ptolemy's armies surrounded the palace, trapping Caesar and his small force. For months, they fought for their lives in the streets of Alexandria. The city burned, the great library was scorched. But in the heat of battle, an empire was being born. The war for Egypt ended in blood. Caesar's legions crushed the opposition, and the young King Ptolemy was lost to the river. Cleopatra was now the undisputed ruler of the Nile, secured by Roman steel. To solidify their alliance, they traveled down the Nile on a palace ship of gold and silk. It was here that Caesar witnessed the wonders of an empire far older than Rome. He began to realize that being a consul wasn't enough. He wanted to be a king. A son was born from this union, Caesarion. He was the living bridge between two worlds. But Caesar could stay no longer. Rome was calling, and its people were growing restless and suspicious of their leader's foreign queen. On his way back to Rome, Caesar paused only briefly to crush a rebellion in Asia Minor. It took him only 5 days. He sent a message to the Senate. That became the most famous report in military history. Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. He was reminding Rome that he was still the master of war.
Hail Caesar! Hail the Emperor! For the glory of Rome!
Caesar returned to Rome, not as a general, but as a master. He celebrated 4 consecutive triumphs, the most lavish parades in history. He gave every citizen money and food, turning the city into one giant festival. To the people, he was a savior. To the Senate, he was a nightmare.
No living man has ever put his face on a coin. He wants to be king.
He began to break every Roman tradition. He put his own face on the currency. a privilege reserved only for the dead or the gods. He sat on a golden throne in the Senate, and his statues were placed alongside those of the ancient kings. The message was clear. The Republic was dead.
The months align with the stars, Caesar.
Show me the equinox.
Here, the sun's path crosses.
It is perfect for the empire.
But Caesar didn't just take power. He used it. He rebuilt the Roman calendar, giving us the 365-day year we still use today. He gave land to the poor, rebuilt broken cities, and expanded Roman citizenship. He was fixing a broken system, but he was doing it with the hand of a dictator. In early 44 BC, the final line was crossed. Caesar was declared dictator perpetuo, dictator for life, in Rome, where the very word king was a curse. This was the ultimate insult to the Senate. They realized that as long as Caesar lived, their power would never return. But power this absolute always comes with a price. While Caesar planned his next great war, his closest friends were sharpening their blades. The Republic's clock was ticking, and the date of its final breath was already set. The 15th of March,